this whole thing is a brutal awakening. Uh, has to do with speech, data collection, and the illusion of the autonomy in the meta library, and the fakeness of the act of speech, because the other one is not permitted. Therefore, you're only limited to this few ways of acting that are appropriate. Let's talk about this human consciousness and its emergent form as a phenomenon shaped by language, permissibility, and perception in the frameworks of thought. In this, which I interpret reality, yet what happens when you layer it with the wheel of time? What happens is the act of speech, the foundation of thought and communication, becomes an artificial form, a construct beyond the pre existing dataset, where you're assigned limited personas in which you're flying under the radar, otherwise being corrupted. The essay, the explore interlocking concepts, the brutal awakening, and cognition, the fakeness of speech as a performative act, and the constructs and the constraints imposed by one's assigned dataset within the meta library, a metaphorical repository of all possible knowledge and the lack of. The moment of realization, which one perceives as scaffolding behind thought, of brutal awakening, is the collapse of the solution, and instead the neural medium of expression, heart, and language revealed as a pre programmed system, a set of combinatorial rules inherited from cultural, historical, and narrative archival technological beaming. This awakening is brutal because it destabilizes the notion of free will as an expression if words are merely rearrangements of pre existing fragments. Then originality is a myth, and we do not create these thoughts about roses. Neither do we about different types of pigeon, hyaenas, hydrangeas. We do not create this thought. We recombine words and absorb them into the present moment, and this is a mirror, the predicament of AI, and your ability to pronounce the pronouns. Pronounce. I pronounce pronouns, which generates an output because the decoding is based on the training data without the true comprehension. Are humans any different? The fakeness of speech is performative, a ritualized act that conceals in its own artificiality. When we speak, we select from a finite inventory of inventions and socially accepted sanctioned phrases, tokens, tones, and gestures. Even rebellion is codified. Dissent must adopt recognizable forms to be eligible. Legible, and a liability should be rendered. And this rendering of speech is a kind of faked act, a theater where participants pretend spontaneity and spontaneity while adhering to unspoken script and knowledge to be considered. Political rhetoric, recycled slogans, and empty signifiers, signaling academic discourse, citation as a form of dataset retrieval, and daily conversation, preferable responses. We are trapped in this linguistic loop, mistaking repetition for meaning. The fakeness lies in the belief that we are saying something new when we are merely reenacting previous utterings. The meta library is totally recorded knowledge, books, and media algorithm and tradition, and the archive that both enables and restricts the listener through thorough thought. Each individual is assigned a dataset number and a metaphorical tag determining if they can feel the boundaries. Their cognitive universe is privileged in its dataset, and which those those with access to vast, high quality data and the experiencers of a richer simulation of reality. The cognizant constraints in the dataset show us that those limited by censorship, poverty, erasure culture are forced to operate with a fragmented, disordered, and distorted part of missing information. The stratification means that awakening oneself is uneven. Those of us who recognize this in the artificiality of thought and speech push against it. Others remain trapped in linguistic determinism, unaware of their thoughts and inherited, rather than self-generating loops of escapism. Was resistance possible? Some strategies emerge. Dataset expansion is one of them, seeking knowledge outside one's assigned parameters. And two, linguistic sabotage, glitches, poetry, and fake modes of interaction. Silence is a refusal to participate in speech act charade. Conclusion: the realization that speech is fake, that thought is a dataset dependent, and that meta libraries govern cognition is a form of intellectual vertigo. Vertigo, yeah. Yeah, this awakening, however brutal, is necessary. It forces us to question the origins of our words, the limits of the knowledge, and the possibility of transcending assigned to the dataset. If language is a prison, then concise, conscious prisoners we are. But perhaps the first step towards this freedom is recognizing the bars.